They thought I was just another old man, quiet, alone, easy to ignore. But what they didn't know is that I've been walking this land for 35 years. My name is Caleb, and this land, all 12 acres of it, it wasn't just dirt to me. It was my life. I fished here. I built a dam here with my own 2 hands. I buried my dog here. So when I drove up one morning and saw 30 identical houses built on my property with fences, driveways, and HOA signs, I didn't just see homes. I saw a declaration of war. They stole my land, and they had no idea what was sitting above them. A dam, holding back decades of water. And I had one choice left. Let it go, or let it flow. They said I was overreacting, that I should let it go. But how do you let go when someone steals the land your grandfather left you, the land you fished on with your kids, the land you walked barefoot on every Sunday morning with a cup of coffee in one hand and memories in the other? My name is Caleb Mathers. I'm 59 years old, a retired farmer and part-time mechanic from a quiet town in the Midwest. I'm not what you'd call a complicated man. I've never been to Europe, never driven a luxury car. My life revolved around a few acres of peace I proudly called mine. 12 acres to be exact. No fancy house, no pool, just land. A quiet slice of nature on the edge of town, filled with tall oaks, a lazy stream, and a small dam I built back in 1997 using scrap wood, sweat, and stubbornness. Over the years, that dam turned the stream into a slow, shallow lake. It wasn't much, but fish started spawning there. Birds nested nearby. The water gave the land life, and in some ways, it kept me grounded. I didn't build on it. I didn't lease it. I didn't touch it. But every Sunday, like clockwork, I'd drive out there, park under the same old tree, and just breathe. No HOA, no rules, just me and the land. Until one Sunday, everything changed. It was early fall, leaves just starting to curl. I was driving the same dirt road I always took to reach the western edge of the property. Only, as I turned the bend near the old cottonwood tree, something felt off. The woods looked thinner. The ground had tire tracks. I kept driving, and what I saw next made my heart skip. Rows of houses, 30 homes, maybe more, all 2-story, identical designs, beige siding, plastic shutters, and brand new fences lining what used to be my field. I stopped the truck, got out, walked up to the first sidewalk. There was a sign, "Welcome to Willow Meadows, a managed HOA community." HOA? I rubbed my eyes. Maybe I was lost. I pulled up Google Maps. I zoomed in. Nope. This was my land. I knew it like the back of my hand. That boulder near the entrance? My dad used to sit there with his tackle box. The stream to the south? I taught my daughter to skip stones there. This wasn't just land. This was my history. Now it had vinyl fences and no parking signs. I rushed home and pulled out the file cabinet, the brown folder I hadn't touched in years. There it was, the deed. Caleb Mathers, 12 acres, Section 8B, signed, stamped, tax records all current. There was no sale, no lease, no permit signed by me. So how? The next day, I drove to the county assessor's office. I met with a young clerk named Nathan, who clearly wasn't ready for the storm I brought in. "I own this land," I said, dropping the deed on his desk. "And someone's built an entire damn neighborhood on it." He typed, clicked, paused. "There's a development permit filed here, from 2021. My stomach dropped. By who? A company called Summit North Holdings. They submitted a land claim, said the land was part of a defaulted estate sale through tax foreclosure. Here's the parcel reference. Wait, this says the original deed holder was a Caleb Matthews? Matthews? I leaned forward. My name is Mathers, with an E. That's a different name. He frowned. This might be a clerical error, or fraud. So I asked the obvious question. Why was no one contacted? His answer? It was approved through automated processing. No one verified the match. It went through, and the homes were built. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. In a system meant to protect property, someone, either by mistake or fraud, had taken my name, misspelled it, filed a shady claim, and built a neighborhood, and no one caught it. I hired a lawyer, a real sharp guy named Davis from downtown. He studied the paperwork, the building permits, the name discrepancy, and said what I feared most. This is messy, you're legally right, but they'll drag this out, could take years. Meanwhile, they'll claim good faith development. The HOA will say you waited too long, and the developer, he's probably already dissolved the company to avoid responsibility. I asked, so what are my options? Davis took off his glasses and looked me dead in the eyes. You either spend the next 5 years in court, or you walk away. Walk away? From my land? From my memories? I couldn't. I spent the next 2 weeks walking that property line again, quietly. No one knew who I was, just an old guy strolling around. I kept my head down, took photos, studied the elevation maps. Then one day it hit me. The dam. You see, the homes were built downhill, and the city never ordered a hydrology report. No one had investigated the small dam I had built at the northern edge of the property because, on paper, it didn't matter. But in reality, it held back decades of water. Over time, the dam created a retention basin, shallow but wide, and since the HOA never bothered to check upstream, they had built 30 homes directly in a natural floodplain. I checked the law. That dam, the basin, and the land directly around it, still in my name, not under dispute, not part of the stolen section, and under state law, as long as I didn't create malicious intent, I could legally manage my water release, especially for environmental control. My land, my water, their mistake. But I didn't rush. I wanted them to know it was coming. I wrote letters, polite but firm. I sent them to the HOA board, to the developer's listed address, and even to the city. Each letter said the same thing. This is to formally notify you that you have constructed residential properties within range of a legally managed, privately held dam basin. Unless all structures encroaching on my land are removed within 30 days, I will begin controlled release of dam water in accordance with state guidelines. I gave them time. I wanted them to correct it. They didn't. In fact, one of their board members, a guy named Travis something, sent a mocking reply. We're not going to move 30 homes for some old man playing cowboy with a puddle. Go ahead, turn on your sprinkler. That's what they called my dorm, a puddle. They didn't understand. I wasn't bluffing, and I wasn't going to court. I was going to do what any man would do when ignored, mocked, and robbed. Take back what was his. The day the water flowed. 1,200 words, YouTube ready, storytelling style. The night before it happened, I didn't sleep, not because I was nervous, but because I wanted to make sure I remembered every second of what was about to unfold. The truth is, I wasn't a violent man, never have been, never even raised my voice unless I was cheering for the Packers or warning my dog not to chase the neighbor's cat. But when someone steals from you, mocks you, and builds their entire little world on top of your life's work, the anger simmers differently. I gave them 30 days. I even sent a final warning letter, certified mail. No response. The HOA, the city, the developer, all silent. No one even showed up to inspect the land. They thought I was bluffing. They thought an old man with a dam and a bad back couldn't touch them. They forgot one thing. When you ignore the land has its own way of speaking. I arrived at the dam around 6:40 a.m. Sunlight was just beginning to peek through the trees. Fog hovered low over the water, peaceful, unaware. I had brought gloves, boots, a wrench, and a GoPro. Yeah, I filmed it. Not because I wanted attention, but because I knew one day someone would try to say I was lying. Or worse, say it was sabotage. I was ready for that. The dam wasn't some concrete government project. It was a manual wooden and steel structure I'd reinforced every year. It had a hand-tightened valve that controlled water release into the original creek bed. I'd last opened it in 2004, just to drain a little after a storm. This time, I turned it all the way. Clank! The steel knob creaked like an old coffin. Then came the first groan, not from the dam, but from the pressure of water behind it. A second later, whoosh! Water burst forward like it had been waiting years for freedom. Birds scattered from nearby trees. Leaves kicked up in the breeze. The flow was faster than I remembered, more intense, but safe, controlled. I wasn't flooding a city. I was just restoring the natural path that the HOA never bothered to study. Over the next few hours, the flow didn't stop. It followed the natural slope of the land, which, unfortunately for the new homeowners, curved directly into their backyard fences. The first signs of trouble came around 11 a.m. I drove past the Willow Meadow subdivision, pretending to be just another curious neighbor. The sidewalks were wet, lawns soggy, kids standing barefoot on porches wondering why their grass had turned into marsh. Then came the calls. I'd left my number with the city's environmental division in case they needed to contact me about the dam release. They called. I answered politely, gave them GPS coordinates, confirmed that the land and dam were in my name, confirmed that the water had never been diverted unnaturally. Then I said the magic words. I am conducting a legal, controlled drainage of my private dam basin. I've submitted the warning letters, documented the timeline, and am acting fully within my rights. I'm happy to send you the paperwork. They paused, then said, You're within your rights, Mr. Mathers, but this might get messy. I said, It already is. By 3 p.m., the water had reached critical levels in the subdivision. Not tsunami waves. No people were in danger, but homes, those poorly planned, low-elevation homes, started to see damage. Backyards turned to mud pits. One guy's garden shed floated 2 houses down and smashed into a kid's trampoline. The HOA tried to act like nothing was wrong. One board member actually went door to door, handing out sandbags from the back of a pickup truck. But nature doesn't wait for permission slips. Basements flooded, sump pumps failed, mold set in fast, and that's when the finger-pointing started. By day 2, the news showed up. Not CNN or Fox, but local reporters, and that's all I needed. I stood at the dam, holding my deed, the city permits, the letters, the tax records, every piece of proof. I even wore my old proud landowner hat for the interview. Mr. Mathers, are you intentionally flooding these homes? Not at all, I replied. I'm just restoring the land to how it's always been. The HOA built where they shouldn't have. I warned them, they ignored me. And boom, just like that, the internet ate it up. TikToks, reels, headlines. HOA ignores warning, faces backyard disaster. Retired farmer's dam exposes developer fraud. Man destroys neighborhood, legally. I didn't post any of it. People did it for me. And the HOA, they went from arrogant to desperate overnight. A week later, I got a call from a very nervous lawyer. He represented what was left of Summit North Holdings, the shady developer company. Mr. Mathers, we'd like to discuss a settlement. Too late. Now the residents were suing them for damages, for fraud, for false promises. Half the homeowners had no idea they lived on disputed land. Some had paid their life savings to move into a peaceful HOA community. Now their basements were rotting, and the HOA board, they resigned, all of them, within 10 days. The city filed an investigation. State Water Management visited the dam and declared it legally compliant and environmentally appropriate. I didn't lift a finger beyond that valve. So, what happened to the neighborhood? 18 homes were declared uninhabitable due to water damage. 6 families sold at a massive loss. The remaining homeowners formed a coalition, not to rebuild, but to dismantle the HOA entirely. The land dispute finally went to court 6 months later, and I won. The judge not only restored full ownership of my 12 acres, but also ordered the developer to pay restitution and back taxes. But here's the twist. I didn't rebuild. I didn't sell it. I let the land return to what it was: trees, water, peace. I go there now every Sunday again. Same old chair, same breeze. They lived on disputed land. Some had paid their life savings to move into a peaceful HOA community. Now their basements were rotting, and the HOA board, they resigned, all of them, within 10 days. The city filed an investigation. State Water Management visited the dam and declared it legally compliant and environmentally appropriate. I didn't lift a finger beyond that valve. So what happened to the neighborhood? 18 homes were declared uninhabitable due to water damage. 6 families sold at a massive loss. The remaining homeowners formed a coalition, not to rebuild, but to dismantle the HOA entirely. The land dispute finally went to court 6 months later, and I won. The judge not only restored full ownership of my 12 acres, but also ordered the developer to pay restitution and back taxes. But here's the twist. I didn't rebuild. I didn't sell it. I let the land return to what it was: trees, water, peace. I go there now every Sunday again. Same old chair, same breeze. No HOA in sight. If you think this story was wild, wait till you hear about the HOA that tried to fine a man $5,000 because his grass was too green. Yeah, that's real. Hit subscribe, drop a comment, and remember, this is HOA Trap, where the rules break down one fine at a time. No HOA in sight. If you think this story was wild, wait till you hear about the HOA that tried to fine a man $5,000 because his grass was too green. Yeah, that's real. Hit subscribe, drop a comment, and remember, this is HOA Trap, where the rules break down one fine at a time.